Welcome to the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your first choice for second round advice, with your hosts Gabriel Miramontes and Jacob Bartley.
Pearl on 3rd and 7. Jefferson hauls it in. Would be Max Crosby. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home, your first choice for second round advice. Gabriel Miramontes, Jacob Bartley. How you doing today, man?
Mixed bag. Just, some of my fantasy teams did really, really well this weekend. Some of them did very poorly. More importantly, some of my takes did very poorly. So just trying to make a comeback from those.
You know what, man? If there's one thing I learned, it's from a very popular quote. And it goes like this. Just keep chugging.
Nice.
And then it was modernized in 2016, 2015. I don't know. Whenever Finding Nemo came out. Okay, well, clearly my wife thinks she's a part of the show today. Yes, I guess it was 2004. Just keep swimming. Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast. If you hear any thoughts here today, hot takes you like, feel free to leave us a like or a comment or a dislike, whatever it is. We appreciate you and we appreciate the support. And we'll give you a big old high five because even though we're not together in person, we're together across this big old thing we call the internet. And again, couldn't do it without you. We got a lot to talk about. And before that, we're going to get into a couple of updates. Update number 1. You know what? I've noticed some things. Our viewers have demands, Jacob. Do you know what those demands are?
I have no idea.
We've gotten them twice in the last 2 weeks, and they have gone ignored. And if we are a podcast for the people, then we need to make the changes for the people, if you get my drift. And I forget his name. One of the guys was really nice. He said, hey, I would totally watch your whole podcast, but sometimes you guys go off on these really long tangents. He was brutally honest. He's like, sometimes you guys go off on long tangents. I would love timestamps so I can get to the topics that you guys are talking about because I love your surprise performers, and I love when you guys talk about specific players. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Done. It can be done. So and I don't remember either of their names. I guess I could go back and look. But thank you. We will make that.
That's awesome.
So that's coming soon. This episode, of course. And then another thing is, in episodes in all caps, those are live shows. All capped episodes are live. It helps you distinguish from our short clips and our live clips because we are planning to go live 2 days a week here. Currently, we just do one. And I think we have another announcement, but we're going to hold it. We're dabbling. We're trying new things for you guys. So much to talk about today. I'm done going over announcements. As always, let's get it to the people who were here since day one. What up, David? Wait, that's not us. That's because David is also here. And wait,
there we go.
We got Tyler in the chat. And let's see. One of our questions before we got in today was, what are your takes on Cam Akers or the Kareem Hunt signings? We're going to get into it, but I'd love to hear their thoughts first before we kind of dive in. And he says, Akers to Minnesota is great for him. Their RB is weak. Say that to producer Gio. And then on the Hunt side, we got no telling on Hunt. I like Ford a lot more. Yes, we're going to get into that. Comes back with TJ Watt might have something to say about that. Oh, that's right. Raiders and Steelers. I think it will be a barn burner in terms of one barn burning and another one setting it on fire. I won't say who. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. Or they're just bad. Take it for what you want. Yeah, thanks for making me feel old with that. Okay, yeah. We all feel old now. We all have demands. All right, good. They brought it up, Jacob. First topic of the day. Let's go over some breaking news. Cam Akers to the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, we have the Kareem Hunt story. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, I think my wife just
I have no idea what's going on.
Anyways, she just told me. Never mind. I can't say that. Anyways, all right. Let's refocus here. Good start to the podcast. I love it. Cam Akers traded to the Minnesota Vikings. His tenure in Los Angeles is done and over. So what does that mean for the Minnesota Vikings and company? For starters, I don't think it's that big of a move. I'm just going to be the first one to say it. I don't think it makes Cam Akers a superstar. I think we knew Madison coming into this season was kind of a lackluster option, mainly because, look, if you know anything about fantasy football and if you know it about us and Jacob, every single beat writer or every single person that was writing fantasy content this year said Madison is going to lose you games if you draft him where he's going. One, and their main reason was because every game he went off when Dalvin Cook was out was almost always against the Detroit Lions. And the Lions have the run for the last 4 or 5 years. And that's where Madison found success. And, so be it. He's no longer the number one running back. At least that's what we're all thinking. But, Jacob, what are your initial thoughts about the game?
I mean, I'm actually an Alexander Madison guy.
Oh,
I don't know if you forgot that or not, but
I did, because I forgot about him after before the season started.
I have Madison in probably like 80% of my leagues, and I'm a believer. And look, it wasn't just against Detroit. He did well against he did well several times where Dalvin Cook sat out, and I just thought, hey, that's the sample size we have. Once he's a starter, it's just going to extrapolate, and that it would just be that, but over more games. And the thing is, let me just caution people really quick. It's week 2, and someone did bring up to me like, hey, and this was back when there were 16 games. There's only 16 games, so 2 games is a huge chunk of a 16-game season. It is
huge chunk, but
it's also very, very early. I would look. This is prior to Cam Akers signing with the Minnesota Vikings. I would not, or being traded to the Minnesota Vikings, I would not be giving up on Madison whatsoever. I would not be giving up on these players that are performing not to our expectations, maybe a Justin Fields or something like that. But now that Akers is there, the important thing is that he's going to take touches away from Madison. Even if, let's say Madison, you said he's not the RB1. I think he will be the RB1 on this team, but Cam Akers is going to take too much away from him for either of them to end up being a solid RB2 for you. So however it shakes out, whether Akers is the lead guy, Madison is the lead guy, or somebody else, who knows? It's just all bad for all of them, honestly.
Do you think that they're going to do an RBBC thing, a committee? Do you think that's an option?
Oh, I mean, I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Interesting. Let me give you some guys. Now that Cam Akers is here, he's here. Who would you rather have? First of all, who would you still rather have? I think you kind of said it, Madison or Akers.
Oh, Madison for sure.
You'd still rather have Madison?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm also not an Akers guy, so this that's that speaks for itself.
Do you think he plays this week? I don't think he plays this week.
No, I don't think so. Which is interesting because Madison Akers doesn't play this week, and Madison could go off this week, and then that's when you trade him. Get
to it in a second. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Clearly, this is a topic that I don't know. It just feels weird to me. I don't think Akers is a guy that's going to be great. I don't think Madison's a guy that's going to be great. Now I just see 2 great guys or 2 okay guys playing behind a line that is not good. Kirk Cousins is constantly getting hit. He's the number 1 fantasy quarterback in all of fantasy football right now. But beyond that, that line is atrocious. I don't think any running back is going to be viable in that field all year. I'm staying away from all of them. I can't really even think about guys right now. I don't have Cam Akers ranked this week in terms of what he might be able to produce. And Madison, I mean, he's a top 30 guy, but that's kind of what he's been for me all season. He's out there, he's a body, he's going to get work. but he's still the 30th ranked running back on my projection. Like, I just don't have any feelings about this, but maybe you are passionate like Jacob. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about the signing of Cam Akers to Minnesota Vikings? And as always, we appreciate you guys and your thoughts. All right. Oh my goodness. I am off today. We're trying a new thing, and I am very thrown off right now. My dog's barking. My wife is yelling at me. Jacob's just like, dude, hold it together.
And you finally don't have didn't just have like oral surgery right before the podcast.
Yeah, I know. My mouth is finally fine. It's a whole thing. And it's actually my worst show in a month, considering the last 3 shows I've done, I've had teeth problems. Let's get to this one. All right. Jacob, why don't you read this one?
So Garrett Wilson or Drake London this week in PPR. Man, this is tough because I do think pound for pound. That's tough, man. I was going to say Garrett Wilson is a more talented guy. I do think that that's the case, that Garrett Wilson is a more talented player, but they're both have not good quarterback play, and it really depends on the matchups. So the Jets play the Patriots, which that is...
It's an okay
the
matchup.
Patriots defense can be tough, but...
It can be tough. They can be tough, especially against Zach Wilson.
Yeah, they kind of been middle of the pack against wide receivers. But look, like I said, 2-game sample size for all the teams. So Patriots have been middle of the pack against wide receivers, which is interesting. And then who does Atlanta play? Do we know?
I can look that up.
Yeah. So really it comes down to matchup because like quarterback play is a wash. Talent is close. I mean, I would give Garrett Wilson the edge. He just won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So let's give Garrett Wilson the edge. And yeah, I mean,
London plays Detroit this week.
Okay, so London plays Detroit. So look, I mean, I don't know who you have on your team. I don't mind starting both guys. I'm starting both of them in different leagues. So just depends on the rest of your team. But all right, so if I have to choose, I'm going Garrett Wilson.
If I have to choose, I'm going Garrett Wilson as well. I think
so. For me,
you're looking at a guy who's been targeted multiple times over the first 2 weeks, and then you're looking at another guy who had 1 target in week 1 and then 8 in week 2. Is he going to get 5? Is he going to get 10? It seems way more unpredictable. I'm going to go with the more predictable option. I don't think either quarterback is good. So I'm going with the better talent overall, and for me, that's Garrett Wilson. Jacob?
Yeah, and I will say, I wanted to add one more thing. I mean, this should have decided it for me right away. For me personally, and this is no surprise to anyone, Garrett Wilson is a set it and forget it. He's a guy, I don't care. Like, look, obviously we want Aaron Rodgers to be his quarterback. I don't care who his quarterback is. He's in your lineup. Drake London is a flex play that you consider. So it's Garrett Wilson.
Let me paint a picture for you really quick. I did not take that advice. I sat Garrett Wilson last week, sticking against my own guns because what do we always say? Start your studs. I sat him last week, and I'm trying to figure out who I put him in for because I obviously took him up. Oh yeah, I won my matchup, by the way, but I ended up going with Joshua Kelly instead of him. But my wide receivers are kind of yoked in that league, so I put Kelly in my running back spot, and then I moved some other players around.
I see. So it was really like starting your last wide receiver over Garrett Wilson.
Exactly. And that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But Terrell, probably long gone, took us forever to answer a question. And I couldn't type in that we'll get to him because my dog was barking like crazy. But hopefully Brett Francois is still here. Thoughts on Alexander Madison going forward? We just kind of talked about it. I'm not a big fan. I've never been a big fan. In redraft leagues, see you later. I don't have time for you. But Jacob seems to be a little bit more on the
So you're saying you would drop him?
I'm not saying I'd drop him. I just don't have any shares of him. So I don't care for him.
No, I mean, now he's a flex consideration. That's it.
He's going to play this week, and Cam Akers is likely not going to play.
Oh, this week, if Akers doesn't play this week, you're starting Madison because you think he's motivated, right? He must be, and he has a decent matchup. So start Madison this week, but once Akers comes into play, if Akers stays healthy, Madison's a flex consideration.
Fair enough. He goes on to say PPR 10-team running backs: Madison, Mixon, Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, Jonathan Taylor, Wide receivers Hill, Olave, Marquise Brown, OBJ, tight ends Waller and Higbee. Are there any moves you think I should try to make? The only moves I would say is time to throw some guys away. I think you got a solid team, but Higbee, why? OBJ at this point, I think isn't he injured right now too? Like he just got injured again. Done. I like Ford. We're gonna talk about him in a little bit here. I don't like Madison. To be honest, you need to hold on to your sets. If you're worried about anything, you can probably trade Jonathan Taylor on the premises that he stays in Indianapolis and try to get something for him there. But I like your wide receivers. And I heard an interesting take today, and it was kind of my own take, and I decided to mold it in. Dude, think about how many running backs have gone down over the last couple of weeks. Chubb, Taylor's not playing. J.K. Dobbins is out. The things with Hall that we're seeing right now, the limited snap count, Javonte Williams. There are other running backs. To me, I feel like, and this has always been my stance, that wide receivers are far more valuable than running backs. And it's kind of contradicting, right? Because when you think about it, there's less running backs that are relevant. So the ones that are there are extremely rare and hard to come by. So when you have one, it's a hot commodity. But when you think about it, what are you going to do when you try to trade Jonathan Taylor or Jerome Ford? You're not going to get anything for those guys. Like Jonathan Taylor, sure, he's a stud. He's not playing right now. What can you get for him? And if you're the guy that is trading someone, maybe someone tries to get, I don't know, let's say someone packages Nico Collins, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin for like Jonathan Taylor. It's like at that point, I wouldn't do it because I'm losing depth at a position where another factor, so many leagues are PPR nowadays. Those wide receivers are far more valuable, in my opinion, than a running back that's not playing at all. And that was the only one I can think of because that was a trade offer I got recently. And I'm just like, I don't understand why I'm going to lose all this depth for a guy that may or may not play this season. And if he comes back, I hate to say this, but he's more injury prone than any other man on the field because running backs just happen to get injured a lot. So in my mind, wide receivers are superpowers. Like, I think those are the guys you need on your team. Those are the guys that I want. And I'm happy going 0 RB. I got Tyjae Spears. He started the last 3 weeks in my running back spot in one of our deep 12-man dynasty leagues with really deep rosters. And I've been starting Tyjae Spears. I'm 1-1. Sure, it sucks to see that my projection for him on the week is like 4 points. But he's catching passes, and he's not laying complete duds. Like, let's be honest. Josh Jacobs just went out there and rushed 9 times for -2 yards. I don't think Tyjae Spears is even going to do that. Like, he's getting consistent play. It's little, but he's getting, I don't know. It's a rant. I'm done and over with. We have more things to talk about. Brett Francois also said drop Heap. Yes, please drop Higbee for Khalil Herbert. And then get the tandem in there, Roschon Johnson. I don't even know how Herbert's on a lineup. Like, get him right now.
Yeah, get him. Do that.
Sorry, guys. I think it's the mouse thing. Maybe I need to go back and get some more injections in my mouth, and I'll have a better podcast. I just feel like I'm all over the place tonight. But that's the way it is. That's why we have timestamps now. Let's get back on track. Next question of the day. Jacob, do you have any shares of Puka Nacau?
I do.
Wait, let me ask that question again. Jacob, do you have any shares of Puka Nacau?
I do, and I'm so happy that I do. I had a few shares prior to week 1, which was just like a lottery ticket. And then I happened to have the number 1 waiver wire in our main league.
That's right.
And I was able to get him. And that league, just the way the draft fell to me, I ended up going light on wide receivers in that draft. Like, I drafted I drafted CeeDee Lamb, and then I waited a while. I ended up getting Pittman, which looks decent. But having Puka emerge has been excellent. I don't know if it's going to last all year, but it's been excellent.
Let me ask you this. Now, I made the comment the other day about how I'm not taking any credit for calling out Puka, for saying he's going to be my guy. I put out one short about him in like early June, I think, like right after the draft or before training camp started, that I thought he had a chance to play. And I drafted him in a dynasty league, or I picked him up on the waiver wire in a dynasty league before it even started. And then I got a lot of slack over the weekend because I spent $81 on a fab count of 100 on Puka. I just really believe in him. So the question is, are you a sell high or a hold on Puka Nacau? And for me personally, I'm going to hold him. I'm going to hold him and get whatever I can. Somebody in the comments, I think it was on YouTube or TikTok, I don't remember. By the way, you can find us on TikTok on First Round Fantasy. But one of the things I did see there was it was Mike Williams and who was the other one? It was a running back of some sort. It was like Mike Williams and Isaiah Pacheco for Puka Nacau. And I'm like, first of all, no, because I've seen people that have been offered Garrett Wilson straight up for Puka Nacau. And it's like, what's going on? The value and the inflation of this one particular player has taken fantasy football by storm. And I just feel like
he's literally the highest scoring player in fantasy, right?
He is. But like right off the bat, if someone asked you, if you had if you had Puka and someone offered you Garrett Wilson, would you take Garrett Wilson? In this current setup, like I don't think I'd do that. I'm going to ride
regular redraft.
Regular redraft.
I don't know. I mean,
these are literal things that people are seeing.
Oh,
this is a bigger one. This is a bigger one. Puka Nacau for Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase has had 2 down weeks, which I mean, he's not tanking you. He's gotten 8.
That's crazy.
But those are the things
that if we knew for sure Cooper Kupp was out for the season, then that makes it a lot easier. So that's why I'm willing to trade him or not willing to be on the opposite side of those trades. It's tough, man, but people get excited about these guys who emerge. And I'm just happy I have a share where it counts. Like people have inquired about him, and I'm just like, I'm just going to enjoy this ride. If I'm wrong and I could have got a treasure box for him and I didn't, then so be it. But I want to enjoy the ride.
See, and that's another thing. Let's talk about perspective here. If you're in a dynasty league and you have Puka Nacau, you're definitely holding. Cooper Kupp is 30 years old, and he's been injury prone the last 2 seasons. He's supposed to come back in week 4. We don't know if that's even going to happen. It's like, why are you going to give up a commodity like Nacau, who just set rookie records, by the way, across the board in every single statistical wide receiving category? So that's just beyond me. And then if you're playing in a redraft league where winning is so paramount to your success, I don't care if it's winning early in the season or later in the season. You need to win every week when you're in your redraft league. And to me, why am I going to take Mike Williams on injury prone in redraft leagues? And why am I going to take Isaiah Pacheco, capped as far as like touchdowns, passing game, for a guy like Puka Nacau? Like, I don't see it. I want the guy that's going to keep getting me 30 points a game for the next 2 weeks. And if Kupp comes back, so what? He's gotten 20 targets a game. Matt Stafford is throwing the ball 45 times a game. Someone's going to get volume there. So if Cooper Kupp comes back and demands 15 targets a game, guess what? Tutu Atwell getting 9-10 targets a game. Higbee's getting 7 to 8 targets a game. Kyren Williams is getting 7 to 8 targets a game. This team is throwing the ball so much. There's opportunity to go around, and Puka Nacau is not just going to go away. He's not. He's a thing. He's here to stay, and I'm here to tell you, don't give him up. Don't give him up. I really specifically want to dig into TikTok, but Jacob, I saw a really interesting piece about this the other day, and I'm trying to figure out what it said. It was, I want to know if this holds any weight to you. The Los Angeles Rams are the 5th slowest team in terms of pace of play. So let that sink in. The 5th slowest team in terms of pace of play. But they also are top 6 in plays run. So it's this totally opposite of the end spectrum where, and you think about the first 2 matchups. They played the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't know if you watched that game because it was when the Niners were playing, and I know you love your Niners. But specifically in that game, dude, the Seattle Seahawks never had the ball. I think the time of possession for the Seahawks in that game total was under 15 minutes. It was a crazy game in terms of possession. And then last week, they're just fighting for their lives. A lot of turnovers. Matthew Stafford gave up the ball 4 times. I don't necessarily know, but I guess what I'm trying to say is he's a hold for me, and I think he's a hold for you. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is that's very tough to do. Just hold. I that's what I'm doing, and I've gotten offers, so just hold.
Yeah. Well, clearly the rust is not shaken off of us yet, but maybe it's shaken off of you. So let us ask you guys, what do you think about Puka Nacau, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams? I'm even getting the thumbnails wrong. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, we appreciate you guys. I can't get anything right. Do you have controls yet, Jacob? Like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Gosh, man. Let's figure this out. Let's talk about Puka Nacau's teammate, Kyren Williams, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. He's another sell high or hold topic today. He's currently like the running back 3 on the year. So he's playing amazing. A lot of people have schemed it up to, hey, it's just the way that Sean McVay is like scheming the plays for this guy. He's not talented. He's not great, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, give me a running back who's doing what he can do and tell me he's not great. He's great for my fantasy team, and that's what I care about. And the move with Cam Akers today solidifies the fact that I am holding on to Kyren Williams. I'm not selling high. I don't care about their matchups going forward. The same argument I used with Puka is the same argument I'm going to use with Kyren. Matthew Stafford is throwing the ball a ton. Even if they go into tougher matchups where they are the ones that are playing defense more or they're the ones that are fighting more, he still gets work in the passing game. I love Kyren Williams. And Puka and him were two guys that nobody was talking about this year. Nobody. And yet we find ourselves in this position where, oh man, a few beat writers were saying that they were doing good. Like Kyren Williams was going to get the third down work. And I don't know. It's just interesting to me. He's a hold for me. What are your thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I'm more willing to trade Kyren Williams than Puka Nacau, obviously. And so it depends how your team's set up. Obviously, that I guess you could say that about any trade or any situation. But
yeah,
maybe I'm biased. I don't want to root for the Rams too much, but I do think he's tradable. But hey, the RB market is not looking good. It's not looking good at all. And you might have a solid top 12 guy for the rest of the year. It's possible. I mean, he had a lot of hype last year, right? And a lot of people expected him to take over last year, and it never happened. And maybe it's going to be this year. Obviously, Sean McVay loves him. If he's using him this way, he got Cam Akers out of town. I mean, especially, I'm not as strongly on hold as I am with Puka, but
yeah,
I would see if you're stacked at running back and you could make the move to upgrade majorly at wide receiver, I would consider that.
Yeah, totally. And that's another thing too. It's like you heard the type of trade offers people are getting out there for Puka Nacau. You're not really going to see that for a guy like Kyren Williams. Sure, he's doing great. But again, wide receivers, I feel like they hold more value. I think that people are scared of running backs. They get injured more frequently. And Kyren Williams is acceptable to that. I still think it's all a joke, honestly, because there are some people out there that say this is all going to go away when Matthew Stafford gets injured. It's like, sure, man. Every team's going to fall apart if they lose their quarterback. Like, it doesn't make sense. That argument is so invalid to me. And the only reason why they bring it up is because he's been injured in the past. And it's just like, whatever, man. I don't have time for that.
The more logical thing is when Cooper Kupp comes back that's the more logical thing.
That is a logical thing to think about. And that's actually a really great point. It's the same point that I'd make for Puka, though. It's like he's throwing the ball 40 times a game. Even if he's throwing the ball 35, I think Kyren's the third option there. I think Tutu Atwell is probably the least one to benefit from a Cooper Kupp comeback.
Poor Van Jefferson.
Man, what are you going to do?
When leading up to the season, like once Cooper Kupp was out, it's like Van Jefferson, number one wide receiver. And then he also... And if I'm not mistaken, that the interception, there was one of the interceptions in the game was because of Van Jefferson's mistake. And then Sean McVay, they cut to Sean McVay and he looked so pissed, and I'm like, damn, this guy just can't catch a break.
Yeah, I don't know. Van Jefferson, it was a hope, it was a dream, it was a shot in the dark, and it didn't work out. But give us your thoughts about the tailback for the Los Angeles Rams, Kyren Williams. We'd love to hear them. Leave them down in the comments. And as always, thank you. Good luck out there, and we appreciate your feedback. Yeah, man. I just think I don't know. These guys came out of nowhere. It's pretty cool. And sorry, Jefferson, it just ain't your day.
This is one of the best aspects of fantasy football is like waiver wire players emerging. It's one of the best things about it.
It's one of the most exciting times. That's why they call it the waiver wire, baby. I don't know why I said that because it's just the waiver wire.
Doesn't make sense.
I just privately messaged Jacob apologizing, by the way. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I feel all over the place tonight. I feel like I'm on I don't know.
It could work. It's like a waiver wire, Yeah,
sure, man. I'm just off tonight. But luckily, Josh Bonino decided to come out and help us out here, man. Let's see what he's got to say. Start Mr. Brees, Zach Moss, or Tyler Algier, and pick up Josh Reynolds or Shaheed. I'll tell you right now, you can start Zach Moss with confidence, and you can pick up Josh Reynolds over Shaheed. What about you, Jacob?
Interesting. You would start Zach Moss over Brees?
Oh, yeah. Brees Hall got 4 carries last week, and I think if anything's good about the New England defense, it's their front seven. So, yeah, I'd start Zach Moss. Zach Moss looked good last week, and I think he's got a better matchup. I'll double check just to see who they're playing this week.
I got to hear more about what Salah's saying about Brees Hall, why that was the case. Maybe game script, I don't know, but
yeah,
I would tend
Zach
to lean
Moss,
Brees.
Yeah, Zach Moss is playing Baltimore, and Baltimore's balled up the first 2 running backs they've played so far this year. But Brees Hall. Sure, Salah may have come out and said a few things, but as of right now, we haven't seen anything yet. We saw 2 carries for 96 yards or something like that, and other than that, he's been relatively quiet. Zach Moss came out just this last weekend and dominated carries, receptions, everything. So I think that's the guy I'd want, especially if Anthony Richardson is out, then I want him even more. But temper your expectations, though, because that is a tough matchup. As for Algier, he's a guy that I wouldn't probably fade away from starting either, but he's really touchdown dependent. He is getting some goal line carries, though. But for me, it's Zach Moss and Josh Reynolds. Jacob?
Yeah, I would tend to lean Brees Hall and then, Josh Reynolds.
Well, that's why there's 2 of us. Thanks for coming out, Josh. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for lending us your ear. I hope we were able to help you out. Let's move on to our next topic tonight. That is, dude, age doesn't matter when you're talking about this guy. Raheem Mostert, running back for the Miami Dolphins, at the spry age of 31. That's right. That's our age, by the way. Is he a sell high or a hold? He's had a decent first game. He had a great second game, finishing as the running back 5. He's done all of that without any passing down work. So whatever you thought you were going to get through the air, you're not getting. But you are getting good production on the ground. There's no word as to when Jeff Wilson is going to come back. The Miami Dolphins did not get Kareem Hunt. They did not get Dalvin Cook. They have yet to sign anyone. They have Salvin Ahmed or whatever his name is. He's not really producing. So, what do you make of it? I don't know. What do you make of it, Jacob? He's an interesting play. But are you selling high or are you holding on to Raheem Mostert? I think Jacob froze. Oh, my gosh. Well, then I guess we have to pause, and I'll wait for him to come back. Let's go to some comments while we wait for Jacob. Rodrigo Moreno says Nico Collins or George Pickens. I would personally go Nico Collins this week. I don't know, man. Listen, I think the Raiders are a very tantalizing matchup for the Steelers and company. But Nico Collins, finally, he has a quarterback who was throwing the ball a ton. Davis Mills, game script guy last year, didn't obviously play a lot when Watson was still there. But by golly, has he come out and absolutely set the world on fire. I think he's going to get – what's weird about Nico Collins, though, and I'll say this, is that he's not playing a lot of snaps. It's just that the snaps that he's playing, he's running routes, and on those routes, he's getting targeted. Tank Dell and Robert Woods both have higher snap percentages than him, but it's Nico Collins who's thriving right now. So that'd be the guy that I'd go for, Nico Collins. George Pickens had the nice run. I don't know. I could be biting my tongue here, but I'm not a George Pickens fan. Keep in mind, all of his fantasy production last week came off the one catch and run. And despite what you may think, the Raiders have played some tough games. The Bills were tough. That first game, though, against the Denver Broncos, they looked okay. The defense looked good. I think they scheme up well this week against the Steelers and the struggling Kenny Pickett, even though they're coming off a win. I don't know. I go Nico Collins there. But I'm not the only one. When Jacob comes back, we'll try him again, see what he has to say. I think he's coming in right now. We'll get back to you. Mariano, thanks for coming out. Jacob, you're back. Nico Collins,
so
quick.
Now, George Pickens.
Oh, there you go, Rodrigo. Decide, because I went with Nico Collins. Go ahead, Jacob. What happened?
Oh, no, anyway, I kicked my power cord. I realized that's what happened last week too, but last week my computer had an update to do when I turned it back on. So I need to sit still while I'm podcasting.
You're just so excited for fantasy football.
Yeah.
Mariano. I'm not going to say the last name. I want ETN. Should I give up Ayuk and James Conner for him? Sure. Go ahead. I don't have any mind or problem with that. I think Ayuk is a boom bust wide receiver 3. We've seen that. We saw his boom game in week 1. We saw his bust game in week 2. So James Conner had a great week last week, but ETN is the superior option there. I would be scared a little bit if he didn't have some Tank Bigsby. I'm a guy who loves handcuffs, so that'd be something I'd be looking out for. Jacob, what are your thoughts on this trade?
Should I give Ayuk and James Conner?
Oh my gosh! I thought your power went out again. I was like,
no. Interesting. No, I mean, obviously, I really like Brandon Ayuk, so I don't think I would.
Come on. This is why you can't listen to him, Mariano, because he's biased.
I mean, that's an interesting trade. I haven't really paid attention to what James Conner's doing this year.
He had a really great game last week. 22 carries, 108 yards, touchdown.
I mean, if you have good wide receivers, sure. But I think Ayuk got injured last game, so he was banged up a lot. He had to come out of the game. He came back in and wasn't really the same. So he could be just back to form. He could be back to that week 1 form for the rest of the season. So if you really need a running back, sure.
There you have it. Thanks, Mariano, for stopping by. We appreciate you. Rodrigo's laughing. I don't know if he's laughing at how bad our take is or just how bad our internet is or just how bad I am tonight, but we still appreciate you for coming by. Josh says, thanks, guys. No, man. Anytime we get a thank you, it's like you're at Chick-fil-A because we give a thank you right back. Thank you for stopping by today, man. We appreciate you. Let's see here. We have some other comments to get to. I can just not work anything today. Broncos could be tough defensive game. Yes, very well be. Sarger always with the hot takes. Miami might be throwing more on the run this week versus the Denver Broncos. I don't care, man. I love Tua. I love that team. I'm a truther all the way. Parker Bledsoe, would you do this trade? I get Jacobs and Ford, but I give up Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams. Tough. I have to know what your other running backs look like. Like, what is your running back field look like that you're having to
because you
give
would
up
have
Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams?
You would have to have some decent running backs. No. You must be lackluster at running back. But the thing is, for me, like the Kareem Hunt signing really like changes this for me. Like maybe before, sure, but I would stick to Wilson and Williams, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. He says he's got Najee and Brian Robinson as his running backs.
Interesting.
I don't like Najee. If there's any Jaylen Warren on your waiver wire, I'd snag him up. He's got an ample opportunity in the meantime. I think, honestly, this matchup against Las Vegas this week, they're not good against the run. I think Najee's still going to struggle, and I think this might be a game where we see Jaylen Warren start to pull away with that running back position in Pittsburgh. That's just my take. But as far as the trade is concerned, I don't know. Look at your waiver wire. Because, again, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams has been good. Prone to injury, but so is Josh Jacobs. I would hold for right now and keep those top-tier wide receivers if I were you. That's just me. So, thank you, Parker. Jacob, you agree?
Yes.
All right, man. Parker, thanks for coming out, man. We appreciate you. We're bouncing all over today, but it's okay because we got timestamps now. So Jacob's going to put in the timestamps. Now, right now, we're going to go ahead and talk about our DFS plays of the week. And guess what, folks? I am 0-2. But I remember last year when Jacob was 0-2. He went 0-4 before he was able to beat me. So that's my goal. Don't get to 0-5. Then I won't have as worse a start as Jacob did last year. That's all I got to say.
No, I did. I have been doing well these past 2 weeks, but it's so random, so no worries.
It's not random. It's skill and
No, that's true.
It's
I mean, fantasy football is random, right?
It's literally gambling. You're building a lineup. It's a gamble every weekend, week out. But it's a race, Jacob, because now we both have to get to our
audio here.
Oh, great. The technical difficulties, man. Let's see here. I have to go in. Please, we're going to play some light music while we both log into our respective positions.
Could not hear you.
All right, we're back. Well, luckily,
or is it you?
No, I can hear you.
Did your audio go out, Gabe?
Can you hear me?
Maybe. Let's see.
Drew in the chat. Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear Gabe, or can you hear me? Oh, I was fine. Gabe, you cut out for some reason.
Am I good now?
Or maybe
Jacob?
I just can't hear you. I don't know about the.
He says we can hear Gabe. It's all on you, Jacob.
We just can't hear each other, Gabe. That is
what a day. What a day. People are leaving in droves right now. It's a whole thing. But you know what? Hey, it's week 2 of the NFL season, going on week 3. What can we do, guys? We just make the best of it and we have fun. That's all I gotta say. Oh my goodness. Let's figure this out.
Okay.
There we go. Jacob, let me reset that up again. We're talking DFS. 0-2, as I already stated. It's time to defend my place on the fantasy hill of fantasy goodness of whatever fantasy is. So with that, I give you my lineup this week. Vast in its glory and lose to it today. Here it is. I have Justin Herbert at QB. Los Angeles taking on Minnesota. It's got the highest over-under of the week. But, hey, I'm not going to be tricked because Kansas City and Jacksonville had the highest over-under last weekend. Look how that game turned out. Still, I think Justin Herbert's going to throw the ball a ton. I'm not like him a lot this week. I went back with Kenneth Walker mainly because of the matchup. No one's been able to stop Carolina's ground game. I should say Carolina can't even stop themselves from being a good run defense. So I think Kenneth Walker can punch in a touchdown or two. Isaiah Pacheco, we talked about him a little bit earlier, how he's had trouble getting into the end zone. I'm hoping that he falls in this week against a putrid Chicago defense. Then I went all hands on deck, spending up for a guy like Justin Jefferson. When you get the best, you deserve the best. You get the best result. Here's my value plays this week. Tank Dell, wide receiver for the Houston Texans. I mentioned earlier. CJ Stroud is throwing the ball a ton. Tank Dell has looked very good. Quiet first week, caught the touchdown last week. Excited for him and what he can do, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sky Moore also caught a touchdown last week, so I'm riding the hot hand with these guys. Then I'm also riding the hot hand of Hunter Henry, tight end for the New England Patriots. He's had a respectable right around 14 fantasy points per game in the first 2 games of the season. I hope he can keep that going against the New York Jets. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Zach Williams, a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson, and he's going to have to get the ball out a lot, and that's going to be his scapegoat. Then Jahmyr Gibbs. Whew, the floor is yours, friend. No David Montgomery. I won't be surprised. I'm just going to say this now. I'm not going to be surprised if Craig Reynolds comes out and gets more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not. But I still think the upside of what he can do when the ball's in his hands is far more exciting. And I think the fantasy upside is there. So that's where I go. And then last but not least, I round it with the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Chicago Bears because Justin Fields can't get it together. And that's all I got for you this week, folks.
So okay. This is going to be interesting.
Oh,
This
it
is
always
gonna
is
be
interesting,
interesting.
man. Let me pull away
It's
here.
going to be interesting.
Jacob, who do you got this week?
Okay, so as the victor 2 weeks in a row, I am going to reveal my lineup. So we might have some similarities here. Not at quarterback, though. I have Trevor Lawrence. I just think that's a great price for him playing against Houston. He's at home. Trevor Lawrence I just think he's so good. He's going to be a top 3 quarterback in this league real damn soon here if he's not already. I have Kenneth Walker. He did well last week. He has a great matchup. I also have Jahmyr Gibbs, who with Montgomery out, I think they haven't adjusted the price yet. I think he's going to outperform his expectations this week. And not that he's going to get a ton of carries, but I just think he's so talented and he will get a little bit more carries than he's used to. CeeDee Lamb, he's been excellent this year so far. And again, you have to throw some studs into these lineups. And of course, with those studs, you're going to find some bargain players. So I went ahead and went with Jonathan Mingo. He had 8 targets last week. He has a good matchup this week. I think that, he, for all intents and purposes, he's the number 1 there. But what does that mean for that team? And then another bargain, but also another crossover between our lineups is Tank Dell.
Let's go.
Playing well with CJ Stroud, which I'm not surprised at because there were reports that they were hanging out every day and working out together. And you know how it is when 2 rookies come in together. So it's looking really good for him. I always get Travis Kelce in my lineup if he's available in the main slate. It's just, why not? You're setting yourself up for success. I do have my boy Ramondre Stevenson in there. He's at 6,500. I think that's a great price for him. He's in my eyes, he's an RB1, regardless of what stats say or what the totals are for this year. And so Ramondre Stevenson for 6,500 is a great price. And I do have the New York Jets against the New England Patriots this week. So that is my lineup for week 3. And we have 4 players of the same?
4 of the same. Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure the players that we've been similar on the last couple of weeks have been the dead players. But you know what? It happened. Let us know your thoughts. Am I going 0-2? We'd love to hear your thoughts about our DFS lineups. What are your lineups looking like this week? Let us know down in the comments. And as always, we appreciate you. Let's get to some comments here really quick. Just Mr. Not Mr. something, just Mr. Would you guys trade Sanders plus Swift for Jonathan Taylor? Personally, I don't have any interest trading for guys who are not playing. And we're still at least 2 weeks out from Jonathan Taylor playing. And how do we even know if he's going to play? Maybe he's about to come back and then he just decides to hold out. He doesn't dress up. He's just holding out for the season. I don't know. Situation scares me. I want guys who can give me production right now. Even if I don't believe in Sanders and Swift long term, I still would rather have those guys. Jacob?
I would hold on that. I would just keep Sanders and Swift.
All right. There you had it. Mr. I have a Mr. Good Night. I need to just stop trying to think of good things to say. Kenny Stay Trill. Start 2, full PPR. Puka, Mostert, Rachaad White, Zay Flowers, Kyren Williams, Drake London. Start 2, well, I'm starting Puka for sure.
Yeah,
I'd probably go Drake London. We talked about him a little bit earlier. With that Detroit matchup. Maybe it's a high-scoring game. They're going to force Desmond Ridder to throw the ball a little bit more. I like London here. But I'm also not opposed to Kyren Williams or Zay Flowers or White or Mostert. Man, can't you start all of them? What's going on here?
I know. No, I would go Puka Nacua, and then I would consider Rachaad White or Drake London.
Yeah, I guess I'd go Drake White. I think I recently traded for Rachaad White from Jacob. I acquired him from Jacob because I needed running back depth. Honestly, though, that game was purely because of matchup, and the Buccaneers have some tough matchups ahead. I think they play Buffalo this week, and you're not going to see the same type of game from White that you saw.
Oh, no, they play the Eagles.
Still the same thing. That front seven is nothing to deal with. They can be exposed through the air, and we've seen that with Kirk Cousins. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think he's a mirage still. I just needed bodies at running back. So that's why I had to make the trade. But there you had it. Kenny, let us know your thoughts, man. as well. People in the comments, feel free to help him out. What do you think? Who should he start? Brandon Garardi says, would you trade Jacobs and Ayuk for Diggs? Full PPR. I feel like the 2-for-1 is like, We both talked about Ayuk already tonight. He's a boomer bust wide receiver 3 for me. I sat him in week 1. He was his boom wide receiver 3. I played him in week 2. He was a bust wide receiver 3. It's going to be a guessing game. There's so many options in that offense. I think it depends on matchup. I'd have to look at who they're playing this week. Josh Jacobs, I think there are better days ahead. Obviously, the Bills' front 7 was incredible last week. 9 rushes for -2 is never what you want to see. So I would hold for right now, Jacobs and Ayuk. I don't know. Jacob?
I agree. That's a lot of value to give up for one player. Like, no, I would hold Jacobs and Ayuk.
Yeah. If it's redraft, though, I could see it. His Diggs has been great. Diggs has been good so far, and he's going to be great. These other guys, we just told you, there's some problems with them. So you know what? Pivot of the night, going Diggs here. There, I said it. Brandon, thanks, man. We appreciate you. He said, thanks for the response, guys. Love the content. Well, I'm glad someone does because I don't love it myself tonight. I am not giving my best self, but damn it, I just cursed slightly. We appreciate you, mister. Thanks for coming out. We got a lot to get through in a little bit of time. Jacob, I am not going to give a surprise performer tonight. So the floor is all yours. Let's be honest, okay? There's going to be a week sometime in the future where you're like, hey, I'm not going to be on this week. It happens. So I'm taking my out now, knowing that I'm going to be on, but I'm just going to have one on then. And we're also pressed for time. So, Jacob, who is your surprise performer for week 3 of the NFL fantasy football season?
So my foreshadowed front runner of the fantasy football week 3 of 2023 is none other than Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers, which is so random, isn't it? I gotta
look this up.
It's so random. But the thing is for me is, look, he ran well last year. I had high hopes for him going into this year. Their offensive line was supposed to be good. And I had a lot of hopes for Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders had a pectoral injury in the Monday night game. He was limited today. So not my hope. I don't want Miles Sanders to be injured. I don't want Miles Sanders to miss playing time. But even if he is active, I think they might take it easy on him, which will give Chuba Hubbard a lot more touches. He can catch the ball and he can rush. And he kind of did the opposite in each week. So in week 1, he had 9 carries for 60 yards, and he just had 2 catches for 9 yards. But then in week 2, he had 5 catches for 34 yards, and then 2 carries for 16 yards. So he's just showing us that he can do both.
He's versatile
on different weeks, right? He's playing Seattle. They've been the 7th worst against the run this year. So all things considered, I think he's a good player. I think he's underrated. I think that he's going to get a more opportunity due to Miles Sanders coming out. I think that team and that offense has better days ahead, and it could be this week against Seattle. That could be a high-scoring game. So I'm rolling with, look, people lost running backs. Running backs are dire as they are every year. And even though there's kind of been this change in, like, people are starting to realize the value in wide receiver, we still need our running back. So somebody's going to need Chuba Hubbard this week. And you can go ahead and fire him up, especially if Miles Sanders is out. Like, if Miles Sanders is out, I think he's a must start. If Miles Sanders plays and he's limited or something, you can consider him in that flex spot. Or if you're just have no one at your RB2 spot.
Well, man, I get it. If Sanders is out, he's a must play. Of course, there's no talking about that. But you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head. The running game, the running backs, the field itself, so thin. I'm throwing Tajay Spears out there week in and week out. Chuba Hubbard, probably a better play. Let's just say that. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, though. What do you think about Chuba Hubbard in week 3? Is he a guy that you're desperate enough to play? And as always, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming out. Let's see here. Guess what, Jacob? Second pivot of the night. I also got a start of the week. or a surprise performer of the week. Tight ends, folks, it's a very bleak field, which is why I'm here to tell you today, go ahead and start Jake Ferguson, tight end from the Dallas Cowboys. You can do it, and you can do it with confidence. The targets were there in week 1. The touchdown was there in week 2. The Arizona defense is there in week 3. They give up the most points at the tight end position. They did it last year. They're doing it this year. It just happens. They're a bad team when it's time to defend the big guy running down the middle of the field. And this week, it's going to be Jake Ferguson, again, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. That Arizona offense is just, or that Arizona defense is just atrocious. And this could be a game that gets out of hand very, very quickly with that Dallas defense. But I could also see it getting very out of hand quickly on the offensive side as well, with Jake Ferguson at the helm. Obviously, they have CD there. They have Tony Pollard there. I get that. But you know what? I'm starting him over Pat Freiermuth this week, who's given me nothing over the first 2 weeks, except for a lone touchdown in week 1. And I'm starting over Tyler Higbee, who everybody thought, including me to an extent, because I was not all in on him. But I'm starting him over Tyler Higbee as well, because everybody said that he was going to be the target hog for Matthew Stafford while Kupp was out, and that hasn't gotten you anything yet. So why not throw it out there, hope for the big play, hope for the touchdown, maybe even 2, and let us know. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like your choice. I mean, everybody needs some tight end help, right? So you're always looking for one of these guys who can boom for you. And I think, in Dallas's offense, Jake Ferguson, he showed some promise before. And I think that obviously, like against Arizona, he can play well. So yeah, I mean, luckily I drafted a lot of Hawkinson this year and a lot of Mark Andrews. So I'm not really searching the waiver wire too much for tight ends, but if you need one, Ferguson's a good choice.
Well, not everyone has Hawkinson and Andrews and Kelsey. So if you're a guy like me, what are your thoughts on Jake Ferguson, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys? You started him this week. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, we appreciate you guys, and thanks for coming out. Let's get to these comments really quick. Star Drew says, yes, let's guess the score of the 49ers-Giants game Thursday night. Jacob, throw it out there. What's your guess for the Thursday night game?
Well, being that, these Brock Purdy-led 49ers just put up 30 points a game or more, let's go 31-10. 49ers. 31-10.
31-10 Niners. I'm not going to shock and awe anybody. I'm going with the Niners, but I'm going to keep it 27-21. I think it's a garbage time game for the Giants. I think they put some numbers up late. I think it's 27-21 in favor of the Niners. Thanks, Star Drew, for the question. One last thing before we get out of here. I know some of us have to go. We're pressed for time. Jacob, do you have 2 minutes?
Sure.
Let's get into it really quick. Obviously, the news, Kareem Hunt goes to the Cleveland Browns. What does this mean for Jerome Ford? Well, for starters, Kevin Stefanski, head coach for the Cleveland Browns, has come out and reiterated that Jerome Ford is the starter going forward. I don't think Kareem Hunt comes out on Sunday and makes an immediate impact. Therefore, Jerome Ford is a fine play this week. I think he has a tough matchup, and I have to look that up. But, Jacob, what are your thoughts about the signing?
Yeah, they believe in Jerome Ford, and he played really well when Chubb went out. And I was a little surprised at Kareem Hunt going back to the Browns. But at the same time, I believe he's from the area, so it's not too much of a shocker. And I just think the reason why he never wanted, like he was disgruntled there, was because he was never going to get the playing time that he wanted with Nick Chubb on the field. And now in this situation, he can possibly get that, but it's going to take a while for Hunt to get going. We've seen these guys that had holdouts have trouble coming back. Not that Kareem Hunt was holding out. He just didn't sign with anyone yet. So I think even if Hunt ends up being the guy there, it's going to take a few weeks. But obviously you'd like Ford there by himself, but I don't think that was ever going to be the case. So I still really like Ford, and Hunt could end up being something in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, man, there are a lot of people that spent a lot of fab or their waiver priority on a guy like Ford this week. And, to no avail. They play Tennessee and Baltimore the next 2 weeks. Really difficult matchups when you're talking about the running back position. It gets a little bit easier after that, but they go right into a bye before it. So there's 3 weeks there where Ford could struggle. Kareem Hunt's getting eased into the offense. And people might be saying, hey, time to drop Ford, or hey, time to trade Ford. Hold on to the guy just a little bit. You're not going to get much for him, but hold on to him. I think brighter days are ahead towards the end of the season. I don't think Hunt is going to come in and immediately demand this offense. He's had an entire offseason, not to say he's not trained or a physically gifted athlete or anything, but I'm just saying he hasn't played in a game in a while, and he hasn't been training with any offensive teams in camp, so he's got a whole offense to learn. I think it takes him a few weeks to get involved. But as always, we want to know your comments. What do you think about Jerome Ford and the Kareem Hunt signing? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you. We appreciate you. And thanks for listening. All right, folks. That's it for today. We had some bumps and bruises along the way. But somehow it ended up being an hour long. And boy, did I think we were never going to get there with how bad I was doing at certain points. I just couldn't get through. But I had my strong hunk of a man, Jacob Bartley, holding down the fort for me, keeping me afloat. And that's what I have to thank him for. So while I get the exit queued up for today, Jacob, you got a hot take for us?
Man, you put me on the spot with these hot takes.
You know I'm coming every week with the hot take, Jacob. Be prepared before the show.
Okay, I do. I guess it's hot take considered everyone's opinion on this player now. But sure, I have one. All right, my hot take is that everyone panicking on Justin Fields is overreacting, and he is going to be a top 5 quarterback this week and going forward. Lock it in.
You heard it here first. Peace.